YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here. We are only like 7 days away from the launch of Warhammer 2, but that's okay. We can still talk about matchups in Warhammer 1 because it's all going to be relevant when it rolls over to Warhammer 2, because all these factions will be there in the multiplayer scene, and they'll also be there in the, what did they call it, the Mortal Empires free LC, which is where they're going to release the mega campaigns, so as it is, where it combines the old world and the new world campaign maps. So all those factions will still be there, so I find all this discussion still quite relevant. In any case, Greenskins and Norsca. So I played a battle today that was Greenskins versus Norsca. We won't talk about how it turned out, I'll let you see that. I will be doing more live battles too, because hopefully that'll help me, number one, be a little more challenged to play and speak at the same time. May help me improve my micro eventually, I hope. But also, hopefully, so you all see how I'm trying to strategize and roll the tactics. But in this case, let's just talk about the matchup itself. Greenskins have fantastic infantry. Norsca has good infantry, albeit rather limited. The Greenskins suffer against terror, which is a real problem. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten beat by an Empire army and literally basically just been beaten by a Griffin and the Royal Altdorf Griffites. Like, you combine those two, hit at the right moment, and the whole Greenskin army just falls apart. So leadership is a major issue with the Greenskins. But they trade off that leadership for major attacking power with fantastic infantry, the Wa, and here we go, Foot of Gork, Itchy Nuisance, all this good stuff. The ability to suppress enemy magic with the Goblin Shaman. They have a ton of special things like that, and they have good monster units as well. Decent ranged units, nothing armor-piercing per se, other than the Rusty Arrows pulling away armor, their armor sundering. But in any case, yeah, that's kind of how it works with the Greenskins. Norsca, on the other hand, more limited infantry. They have access to ample magic. Norsca has basically any magic they would need to be effective against most factions. What Norsca does lack is the ability to heal. So their hero units, well, I say that, freaking Skin Wolves can heal a lot. Skin Wolves are still extremely good for what you pay for. These guys cost about the same as a Gorbel, except not only are they bonus versus large, they're also armor piercing, they have massive damage, and they heal. And they're fast. So these guys are stupid good still for their cost. I think they still need to be a little bit more expensive, potentially. And then Skin Wolves, Armored Skin Wolves and stuff, even though there was a price increase, are still stupid good for what you get. That healing makes them good. So I say they don't have healing, not from a magic standpoint. They do have it with certain units. They have regeneration. Mammoths are a freaking tactical nuke. They come at a risk because they're very expensive, and you have to be able to protect them, but a faction like Greenskins doesn't necessarily have a ton of great answers to Mammoths. So let's go watch the matchup, see how it plays out. So when my opponent picked Norsca, I was considering how I wanted to approach the situation. Now, Norsca has access to Feral Manticores, which can help dominate the skies. Greenskins are not good against flyers, and only have access to one type of flying unit, which would be a Lord, or Azag. Like a Greenskin Warbosh, as I say, and Azag. So in this case, I have chosen Azag because I was betting that my opponent would not choose an aerial army. So I've got Azag with Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna. My main army, I'm sitting back because I want to use Azag kind of as an artillery unit here. I've got 3 Goblins with heavy chevrons to use up my leftover money, 3 Black Orcs to hold down the center, and to be immune to terror and fear. I've got some Savage Orc Arrow Boys because these guys do a little bit better in melee and may not be so quickly eaten up by Warhounds. And then my back line is the Orc Big Guns. I want them in the back away from some of the terror. And then I've got a unit or a Gobbo Big Boss on either flank to support my Goblin units who don't have the best leadership. So that's how my army's set up. My opponent, on the other hand, has a ton of skirmishy and fast units. He's got a couple of Marauder Horsemen with Javelins. He's got a couple of these Norscan Ice Wolves. He's got a couple of Ice Trolls, 3 Berserker units. So he was probably counting on me coming in with Savage Orcs because all he's got infantry-wise, well, I say that, he's actually got a decent, force here. He's got Marauder Champions up front. Now these guys have armor, but they're not armor-piercing, but they're going to be a heavier element. The Marauders in the back, or the Berserkers, I should say, are gonna deal damage to... Oh, sorry, I said 3 berserkers, I'm wrong. He has 2 javelins and the 1 berserker, which is the Brutes of the Hound. So his infantry is fairly lacking, and he has a lot of javelins and fast movers. It's an odd choice, honestly, versus the, the 2 Norscan Warhounds and the 2 Ice Wolves. It's an odd choice versus Greenskins. At least it seems that way to me. The Greenskins are not usually real skirmishy, but maybe he anticipated them bringing a lot of skirmishers because of fear of mammoths. You can see here he's got a Death Sorcerer. Greenskins can't heal their lord, and that's not always a bad call. His Marauder Chieftain is on a horse here, probably just looking for mobility. So yeah, my opponent has invested a considerable amount, in my opinion, in Wolves and Marauder Horsemen. And, you know, you think about what are Wolves and Marauder Horsemen going to do to the Greenskins? Well, Wolves can effectively take out artillery, and they can effectively take out archers, but the Greenskins have excellent answers to Wolves in the form of Orc Big Guns or Savage Big Guns. So, yeah, it's kind of risky, and the Greenskins can field a crap ton of infantry, which is exactly what I've done here. I've fielded a bunch of infantry at the risk of potentially getting hit by mammoths or multiple mammoths. They would be difficult to bring down. I would have to use Azag to inflict major damage and then hope that my archers could follow up and my infantry hold out long enough. Instead, my opponent has gone for kind of a mix of infantry and skirmish, and I have a ton of infantry, and I brought my own skirmish, which means that the range advantage is not going to be in favor of the Norskins, so their skirmishers are going to be severely challenged. He did bring armor piercing, which I like, in the form of these trolls. He's going to need some armor piercing, and he's hoping to probably use that to back up his armored front line. Now, I'm going to put a Fate of Buna. He wasn't advancing too quickly because he doesn't like my position, where I have a secure flank from this building area back here. So I used the Fate of Buna on his Brutes of the Hound. This is it's not like a crazy expensive unit, but it cost a lot, and zapping away half its health and him having no way to do anything about it gives me a huge advantage, because these guys would cause some serious damage. You don't have 57 weapon strength and be unbreakable and not do a lot of damage, Black Orcs or not. So this basically is going to take away most of this unit's hitting power and force him forward, though I don't want to use a whole lot more magic on Fate of Buna. My goal here is to put a lot of pressure on his Marauder Chieftain by Spirit Leeching him and forcing him forward so that I can use my archers to mop up the rest of his Brutes of the Hound, at which point I don't think my opponent's capable of defeating my infantry, and I'm just going to keep his forces in my backlines busy while I defeat his infantry in a decisive manner. So that's my strategy. Defeat his infantry decisively and force my opponent into a bad position. So here, that's exactly what I'm doing. You can see I'm tormenting his lord, so it'll force him to attack. He doesn't want to just sit back and get Spirit Leeched, and I'm kind of taunting, like just staying on the outside of the javelin range, and then I can keep Azag within protection range of these archers, which forced his... he should have kept these Marauder Horsemen close to his lord, because it's really the only thing that could have kept me from Spirit Leeching his lord too much, is having these Marauder Horsemen, but by bringing them to the back, I have ample protection against them with my archers and my big guns. Once he gets close enough, I'm going to turn my archers around, ignore the Marauder Horsemen, and I'm going to begin firing on the Brutes of the Hound. Let's take a look where they ended up. So here they are over here. So here in a moment, yep, you're going to see me. I'm going to redirect my fire onto the Brutes of the Hound. The more damage these guys take before combat, the better it is for me. So you can see some pretty decent damage done there. Another volley going to come in from this flank. So the Brutes of the Hound are down to about 30% health, and they get charged by Black Orcs, which is definitely going to leave a mark. You can see, even against the Black Orcs, look at the damage those Brutes of the Hound did on the charge. Now you know why the Fate of Buna was worth it. Now he is going to he's going to use Doom and Darkness, hoping to break my leadership. But look, the big bosses and the Black Orcs in the center. Plus I keep Azag right over the center of the fight momentarily, and use Wah, which is going to let my Black Orcs do tremendous damage, and it helps me survive the Doom and Darkness. My opponent was maybe hoping to break through my front lines, but again, Black Orcs immune to the effects of fear and terror, which otherwise the Norscan Ice Trolls would have inflicted on me. I did lose a unit of Gobos over here. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. And I'm keeping his Marauder Horsemen at bay, while again my infantry forces are going to win the fight up front. I've already busted through up here, but I'm failing to micromanage my unit because I'm keeping an eye on these wolves. When honestly, the wolves aren't that big of a threat to me at the moment, so I need to just worry about getting these infantry away from the javelin men and on into another fight. So I'll have to keep working. But I was kind of busy, just like I said, keeping an eye on the wolves. He gets to some of my archers, but honestly, the archers, they've kind of done their job. I don't need them to take out a Norscan Lord. I'm going to use my Gabo Big Bosses to come after the Marauder Chieftain here momentarily. And we'll chase down the Marauder Chieftain. My opponent gets a temporary break here in the center. And he's going to get through to my archers, but now the Marauder Chieftain has a Gabo Big Boss and another Spirit Leech. He's a goner, and that's going to leave the Norscan forces in pretty bad shape. You can see he's continuing to use his Marauder Horsemen, but they're just not causing enough damage. I was slow on these flanks. These units should have already transferred in. And then over here, this is not really a big deal. The Savage Orc Air Boys can handle themselves in melee against Marauder Horsemen. Horse Masters, I should say. They wouldn't do great, but they would cause more damage to the Horse Masters than they would be worth. His Ice Wolves get in here, and they do mop up some of my guys. He is going to use a Doom and Darkness once again to try and break my leadership, but the leadership of my boys, speaking of the boys...
Let's go, lads! To war!
That's right, to war. Anyway, the boys are holding up nicely despite the Doom and Darkness. So his Death Sorcerer has accomplished precious little here, and it's worked out good for me. So the decisive blow in the middle of the infantry fight was worth it. His Marauder champions, albeit having armor, had no armor piercing. He probably would have been better off to use his Death Sorcerer with some Fate of Buna, or to put pressure on Azag to keep him back from the fight. The Javelins have done some decent damage, but they're going to run out of ammo. Javelins can't just unload ammo all day long and still have enough left to be effective elsewhere. And then Azag, again, completely unchallenged. He's pretty much perfectly safe up here in the air. He took a few Javelins, but other than that, he's fine. And that was another reason why I put Azag up here. There's no easy way for the Norscan with a Mammoth or potentially other Skin Wolves or something like that to get to me. And quite honestly, Skin Wolves would have been a more sound pick. They always are, in my opinion. They're expensive, but my gosh, the money you spend on Marauder Horsemasters, it's just so much easier to get your money's worth out of Skin Wolves. But at this point, I'm going to start working on the finishing of this fight. I'm going to go ahead and pin down these Ice Trolls with the Gabo Big Boss. I'm not really worried about Javelins at this point. There's not enough of them left to kill Azag. I'm going to keep Azag close to my melee blob here so that I can use Wa on it and buff up their leadership. I can't risk a mass rout this late in the game. I don't think it's likely. But after buffing them up, I'm going to drop down on the Death Shaman. Now that Azag is safe, I will come down into some combat, and he is not bad in combat. On foot or in the air, Azag's pretty decent. So we're going to get rid of the Death Shaman there, and that's going to be pretty much the straw that broke Norsca's back in this case. So I was able to pull off a success here. First time in several games. Definitely did not have a good run in my first 3 or 4 games back. I think this is like my 5th one, and I finally got something under my belt there. Thank you to Scrambled Egg Special for the fun game. I think his Norsca army probably focused a little too much with the Marauder Horsemasters and these Javelins here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can understand the need potentially for some missiles against the Greenskins, especially if there's an Arachnarok Queen or something else like that you end up having to face. And I don't disagree necessarily with the idea of using trolls to back up. Well, he didn't have all Marauder champions, he just had one. See, his infantry is, in my opinion, just kind of dangerously weak here to be facing a Greenskin front. It says Pyrrhic victory, but I mean, we held a pretty solid victory here. There were 2 big uns in very good shape. One of my Black Orcs was still in very good shape. My big bosses were in good shape. Azag was in good shape, so it ended up, and I'm not trying to say that to be mean or something, but I mean, his infantry just was outclassed. It got clobbered, and he didn't have enough. He didn't have enough javelins or other stuff to do the damage, and the money on all these wolves just really couldn't pay out. Yeah, he got some of my archers, but there was no way he was ever going to get past the wall of big guns with the wolves. Not these wolves per se. So he would have needed something else to help try and terrorize them out. So I don't know. I actually think that Norsca has some pretty good tools against the Greenskins, to be honest. With the Greenskins lacking some of that armor-piercing skirmishing, Mammoths can be a pretty scary prospect for the Greenskins, in my opinion. You saw that his Brutes of the Hound did pretty good, even up against Black Orcs. Surprisingly good. And when I look at standard Berserkers, they still have 52 weapon strength. They don't have the armor piercing, but I mean, that's a lot of weapon strength. they're going to be laying it down. We'll just look at that comparatively speaking. Orc Biggin has a lot of weapon strength, and theirs is only 42. So that's 10 more weapon strength than an Orc Biggin. And like I said, these guys have pretty big weapon strength. 38 attack. The Berserker has 40 attack. 6450 health. Yeah, about the same as the Biggin. So interesting contrast there. Obviously the Biggin is meant to be an anti-large, but they're another one of those units that does dish a lot of damage, large or not. And they come with a solid charge bonus, as I would imagine the Berserkers do as well. Yeah, they do. So they got a very good charge bonus. With that much charge bonus and that much weapon damage, armor or not, they're going to dish out some damage. So anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this one. Hope you're enjoying the battles. Again, stay tuned. Total War Warhammer 2 videos will be incoming. If I do get a little bit behind on uploads or something, it's just me working around YouTube's erroneous flagging of my videos as not advertiser friendly. It's getting a little better. I think we're going to find our work around it. And we'll figure out how to take it from there. But appreciate you all sticking with me. Thank you to MSI for sponsoring the channel as always. And guess what? I can't wait to see you on another video, especially soon. Because Warhammer 2 is good, folks, and I'm super excited to show it to you. HeirofCarthage, signing out.